I got on my Check Me Boo shirt. Check me boo.
On the morning of February 1st, 2025, at approximately 11:48 a.m., Coppers Cove police responded to a 911 call reporting a shooting in the 900 block of Tanner Drive. Inside the residence, officers discovered 31-year-old Shasmine Clack suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. She was transported to Advent Health Central, Texas, where she was later pronounced deceased. An investigation was immediately launched. Witness statements and evidence quickly directed authorities to 27-year-old Alonzo Hunter, the father of Clack's youngest child. Within hours, law enforcement located Hunter at a nearby hotel, where he was taken into custody without incident. He was formally charged with murder, and his bond was set at $500,000.
Coppers Cove police are holding 27-year-old Alonzo Hunter of Beaumont on murder charges following a Saturday morning shooting that left a 31-year-old Cove woman dead. Police were called to the 900 block of Tanner Drive shortly before noon Saturday and found Shasmine Clack suffering from a gunshot wound. She was taken to Advent Health Central, Texas, where she later died. After interviewing witnesses, police identified Hunter as a suspect. He was found at a nearby hotel and arrested without incident. His bond has been set at $500,000.
While the arrest provided swift answers, significant questions remained. What preceded the gunfire inside that home? What was the history between Shasmine Clack and Alonzo Hunter? And what circumstances allowed their conflict to escalate into deadly violence? Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Shasmine Clack was born on August 31st, 1993, in Kingsville, Texas. Her parents were Shawnee Lawrence and Sean Clack. She grew up in Texas and received her education at Del Valle High School, where she completed her secondary studies. As an adult, Shasmine became a mother to 5 children. She was widely known among family and acquaintances as being fully devoted to raising her children and maintaining stability in their lives. Friends and relatives describe her as a dependable caretaker who consistently prioritized the needs of her children above other concerns. In her personal and work life, she developed a reputation as someone others could rely on. She earned the nickname Shasta Reader through side work that involved reading for clients, though details about the exact nature of that work remain limited. At the time of her death in February 2025, she was living in Coppers Cove, Texas. She was in the process of building a home life there, raising her 5 children, and focusing on providing them with consistency and care. Her life circumstances revolved around balancing motherhood with maintaining stability for her household. The man charged in connection with her death is identified as Alonzo Hunter. He was 27 years old at the time of the incident and originally from Beaumont, Texas. Hunter had a direct connection to the victim. He was the father of her youngest child. This link made him a central figure in Shasmine's personal life and placed him in regular contact with her through co-parenting responsibilities. The relationship between Shasmine and Hunter was described as strained. Sources and reports suggest that there were possible tensions involving co-parenting and custody of their child. These issues may have created disputes between them, either over parenting decisions, financial contributions, or visitation arrangements. A background check into Hunter's history reveals that he had previous legal issues before the February 2025 arrest. Details of those issues point to encounters with law enforcement, though the specific nature of his past criminal activity is not always highlighted in media reports. His criminal record establishes a pattern that prosecutors may later use to strengthen their case. At the time leading up to the incident, Hunter's last known interactions with Shasmine appear to be linked to their ongoing personal disputes. The level of hostility or conflict present in those interactions is still under review through both public records and court testimony. The relationship between Shasmine Clack and Alonzo Hunter was marked by instability. Accounts from family and associates indicate that it was an on-again, off-again relationship, characterized by repeated attempts at reconciliation followed by separations. One of the most significant elements of their relationship dynamic involved child custody and parental independence. Reports highlight that there were disputes between them over how their child should be raised and the extent of Hunter's involvement. These disputes are believed to have created significant tension. For Shasmine, independence from a relationship appeared to be a recurring focus, while for Hunter, maintaining involvement created ongoing conflict. Social media activity in the days leading up to the incident drew attention. Reports circulated that Shasmine had celebrated a breakup online, making posts that suggested she had declared herself free from the relationship. One of the most widely discussed claims pointed to her announcing her independence and separation on Facebook, where she shared a message interpreted as a celebration of being single or free. The timing of these posts became a focal point in understanding the events that followed. Within the community, people were aware that the relationship had its difficulties. Some friends and relatives knew of the disputes and tensions between them. Whether any formal intervention took place, such as attempts to mediate their disputes or involvement from authorities before the incident, remains unclear. No records of protective orders or formal complaints have yet been made public, though questions remain about whether warning signs existed and went unaddressed. The combination of ongoing custody disputes, public declarations of separation, and possible resentment over independence appears to have formed the backdrop for the eventual confrontation. The relationship history establishes a context that investigators, prosecutors, and the community have used to interpret the events of February 1st, 2025. On the morning of Saturday, February 1st, 2025, 31-year-old Shasmine Clack was inside her residence located in the 900 block of Tanner Drive in Copperas Cove, Texas. Reports place her at home with some of her children during the early hours of the day. Relatives later stated that she had been communicating with friends and family through calls and social media posts prior to the incident. Her interactions online suggested she was marking the end of a personal relationship. In the weeks prior, Clack had publicly celebrated what she described as freedom from that relationship. Screenshots circulated later showed posts that hinted at a breakup, possibly creating tension with the father of her youngest child, 27-year-old Alonzo Hunter. While exact details of her activities that morning are limited, investigators reconstructed parts of her schedule. Witnesses reported seeing her at her home that morning, with no indication she had left the property prior to the time of the shooting. Meanwhile, Hunter's movements became a focal point for law enforcement. According to investigative records, Hunter was in Copperas Cove that morning. He had reportedly checked into the Comfort Suites hotel earlier in the day. Surveillance footage and digital data placed him in the vicinity of the Tanner Drive area not long before the shooting. Police documents later suggested that Hunter may have traveled between the hotel and Clack's residence, although the specific timeline was pieced together through witness accounts and digital evidence. Possible triggers included ongoing disputes between Clack and Hunter. Relatives mentioned disagreements related to their child, financial responsibilities, and the fallout from their separation. Public posts about her moving on from the relationship may have been perceived as provocative. Investigators noted jealousy, unresolved arguments, and possible financial struggles as contributing factors that may have escalated the situation. Witness observations on Tanner Drive that morning became significant to the case. Neighbors later stated they heard raised voices shortly before gunfire. Some described hearing an argument, followed by multiple shots. Others claimed they saw a man leaving the area in a hurried manner, although descriptions varied. These accounts provided critical starting points for investigators to reconstruct the chain of events. The incident occurred at Clack's home in the 900 block of Tanner Drive. At approximately 11:48 a.m., a 911 call was placed reporting gunfire. The caller described a woman inside the residence suffering from gunshot wounds. When officers from the Copperas Cove Police Department arrived, they located Clack inside the residence. She had sustained multiple gunshot wounds. Officers immediately began providing emergency assistance until medical personnel arrived on scene. Clack was transported to Advent Health Central Texas, a nearby hospital facility. Despite efforts by medical staff, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival.
Tonight, we now know the identity of the victim and suspect in that shooting that took place this weekend. Just before noon on Saturday, Copperas Cove police found 31-year-old Shasmine Clack, who had been shot at a home off Anderson Avenue and Tanner Drive. Cove police identified the suspect as Alonzo Hunter of Beaumont. He was found at a nearby hotel and was arrested for murder.
The time of death was recorded within the early afternoon hours of February 1st. At the crime scene, investigators documented evidence immediately. Shell casings were recovered, indicating multiple shots had been fired. The caliber of the weapon was noted, though specific details were withheld from public release at that time. Witnesses provided statements, some identifying Hunter as a possible suspect based on prior knowledge of his relationship with Clack. Law enforcement also began searching for firearms believed to have been used. The investigation began immediately after the scene was secured. Police units blocked off the residence, collected forensic evidence, and took statement from neighbors and family members present in the area. Detectives from Copperas Cove PD coordinated with the Coryell County District Attorney's Office to pursue leads. The identification of the suspect was expedited due to information from witnesses who connected Hunter to the scene and to Clack. Several individuals informed officers about the ongoing conflicts between the two. This, combined with Hunter's known presence in Copperas Cove that morning, directed police attention toward him as the primary suspect. Within hours, investigators located Hunter at the Comfort Suites Hotel in Copperas Cove. Records indicated that he had checked into the hotel earlier in the day. Officers arrived at the location and placed him into custody without incident. He did not resist arrest. Hunter was charged with murder. At arraignment, his bond was set at $500,000. He was booked into the Coryell County Jail to await further proceedings. The investigation extended to evidence collection. Detectives gathered ballistic evidence from a crime scene. This included shell casings and potential bullet fragments, which were sent for analysis to match with any recovered firearm. Forensic specialists also examined the trajectory of the shots inside the home to reconstruct the events. An autopsy was ordered and later conducted by the medical examiner. The report confirmed multiple gunshot wounds as the cause of death. The number of entry wounds and trajectory of bullets provided additional details about the positioning of the shooter and the victim at the time of the attack. Investigators pursued the weapon used. While details were not released to the public, the firearm was either recovered during the arrest or traced through subsequent searches. Analysis of gunshot residue, fingerprints, and ballistic comparisons would form a central part of the prosecution's case. Police also reviewed digital evidence. Phone records, social media activity, and surveillance cameras were examined to establish a timeline. Posts made by Clack and communications between her and Hunter became potential evidence of motive and premeditation. Witness testimony formed another component of the investigation. Neighbors' accounts of hearing arguments and shots were documented, with some pointing to the sound of multiple gunshots. Their statements reinforced the timeline established by physical evidence. The initial findings were compiled into an affidavit supporting Hunter's arrest and the murder charge. The district attorney's office prepared the case for court, with additional forensic and testimonial evidence to be presented during trial proceedings. In the days following the shooting of Shasmine Clack, her family began to speak publicly. Relatives described her as a mother whose primary focus was raising and protecting her 5 children. Her sister noted that Shasmine structured her life around her children's schedules, their schooling, and their needs, often putting their priorities before her own. Family members emphasized that she was protective, careful about who she allowed around her children, and determined to maintain stability within the household. Extended relatives echoed these points, describing her as someone who did not separate her personal decisions from her role as a parent. They highlighted that her relationships, friendships, and employment choices were measured by how they might impact her children. In their accounts, her parenting was central to understanding her life. The community reaction expanded quickly beyond the family circle. Copperas Cove residents organized vigils to recognize the impact of her death. Candlelight gatherings were held near the neighborhood where the shooting occurred, with participants reflecting on her role in the community as a mother and as a resident. Online fundraisers were set up to assist with funeral costs and provide financial assistance for the care of her children, who were left without their primary caregiver. Social media became a central platform for discussion. Posts circulated highlighting her final days, her online presence, and reports of personal disputes. Claims surfaced suggesting she had celebrated a separation from the suspect on social media, which drew both sympathy and debate. Some users shared unverified details about her relationship history and the hours before the shooting, while others attempted to counter misinformation by emphasizing facts confirmed by police and local media. The public narrative, therefore, was divided between documented events, such as the time of the 911 call, the suspect's arrest and the bond amount, and unverified speculation. The legal process began within 24 hours of the arrest. On February 2nd, 2025, Alonzo Ezekiel Hunter was formally arraigned. At the arraignment, the charge of murder was read under Texas Penal Code. The court set bond at $500,000 based on the seriousness of the offense and the relationship between the suspect and the victim. The case then entered the pretrial phase. Investigators submitted reports outlining the timeline of the incident, witness interviews, and forensic evidence. Among the items collected were ballistic findings, autopsy results, and statements from neighbors who reportedly heard the disturbance. Pretrial hearings focus on evidence admissibility, including whether digital communications between Hunter and Clack could be presented in court. Motions were filed to determine if social media posts made by either party would be introduced as part of the state's argument. The prosecution strategy was expected to focus on three areas. First, they intended to establish motive, pointing to a deteriorating personal relationship, disputes connected to co-parenting, and potential jealousy surrounding Shasmine's independence. Second, they planned to demonstrate domestic conflict, including prior arguments or warning signs that indicated escalation. Third, they would rely heavily on forensic evidence, particularly the firearm analysis, trajectory of the bullets, and autopsy findings that confirm multiple gunshot wounds. The defense strategy was less clear in the early stages. However, possibilities included presenting the incident as an escalated dispute rather than premeditated murder. Claims of self-defense were considered possible, depending on the suspect's statements and the context leading to the shooting. Another potential line of defense was diminished responsibility, which could involve mental health evaluations or arguments of impaired judgment. As of the first court sessions, the state held the burden of proving intent and causation, while the defense focused on challenging the credibility of the timeline, the reliability of witnesses, and the interpretation of digital evidence. The outcome depended on which narrative, premeditated act, or situational escalation, the court found more persuasive. The case raised a number of unresolved questions that extended beyond the immediate facts of the shooting. 1. What truly motivated the shooting? Police confirmed the relationship between Clack and Hunter as co-parents of a young child. Reports suggested the victim had declared independence from the relationship shortly before the incident. Motive could therefore involve jealousy, loss of control, or disputes over separation. Financial pressures or custody disagreements may also have contributed, though the exact combination of triggers remained unclear. 2. Were there prior warnings or signs of domestic violence? Family members hinted that arguments had occurred before, but no official records of restraining orders or reported incidents had been released at the time. The absence of documented intervention did not confirm the absence of conflict. It left open the question of whether early intervention or reporting could have altered the outcome. 3. Did Shasmine reach out for help before the tragedy? Another central question was whether she communicated fears or threats to friends, relatives, or authorities. Social media posts were examined for indications of conflict or distress. Family interviews suggested that while she shared frustrations, it was uncertain whether she directly sought external protection or legal action. 4. Was law enforcement aware of past disputes? No public records indicated prior police calls involving the two. This raised questions about whether previous conflicts occurred privately or whether they escalated without reaching official notice. If disputes were known to close friends or relatives but not reported, this represented a gap between personal knowledge and systemic response. 5. How was the firearm obtained, and was it legally owned? The murder weapon became a critical element of the investigation. Authorities traced its origin to determine whether Hunter owned it legally, borrowed it, or obtained it unlawfully. Firearm registration and purchase records were expected to play a role in court proceedings. The legality of the weapon's possession could influence both sentencing and broader discussions about firearm access in domestic disputes. 6. Were children present during or after the shooting? The question of whether her children were inside the residence or nearby when the shooting occurred carried significant weight. The answer affected trauma assessment, custody arrangements, and the charges brought forward. If children were witnesses or in the immediate vicinity, prosecutors could argue additional aggravating factors under Texas law. At the time of her death, Shasmine Clack was the mother of 5 children. Their ages and individual circumstances have not been publicly detailed, but reports confirm that her youngest child was fathered by the accused suspect, Alonzo Hunter. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, the children were placed in the care of extended family members. Temporary custody was arranged while legal guardianship proceedings began in Coryell County. Child Protective Services became involved to ensure the children's safety and to review the environment into which they were placed. Decisions regarding custody are expected to involve multiple considerations: the biological fathers of her other children, the ability of extended family to provide financial support, and emotional stability of the households. As of the most recent updates, the children remain under the supervision of relatives, with longer-term custody arrangements pending court approval. Funeral expenses were significant. A GoFundMe page was launched by relatives to assist with costs, including the burial and the ongoing financial needs of the children. The community contributed funds, but the burden remains considerable. With Shasmine being the central caretaker, her absence created both immediate and long-term economic strain. Family members now face the responsibility of raising 5 children without the primary provider. This includes covering education, healthcare, housing, and daily living expenses. The case has highlighted the economic vulnerability that often follows violent deaths in families with children, particularly when the deceased was the main source of caregiving and stability. The murder drew attention across Copper's Cove. Residents expressed concern about the rise of intimate partner violence in their community. The shooting, which occurred in broad daylight within a residential neighborhood, raised fears regarding public safety. Local advocacy groups used the case to call for stronger awareness campaigns. Community forums and discussions emerged, focusing on recognizing early warning signs of abusive relationships, the importance of intervention, and resources available for those experiencing domestic threats. The crime also encouraged schools and local organizations to re-emphasize programs addressing family violence prevention. Shasmine is remembered primarily as a mother. Relatives and friends consistently describe her as dedicated to her children. Community members have held vigils, balloon releases, and gatherings in her memory. Her family continues to organize awareness efforts, using her story to highlight the risks of domestic violence. These memorials serve not only to preserve her name, but also to connect her tragedy to a broader conversation on protecting women and children. The case is becoming an example cited by local activists in appeals for stronger policies, greater resources for victims, and early community engagement when signs of violence emerge. Texas has consistently recorded high numbers of intimate partner homicides. According to reports from the Texas Council on Family Violence, over 200 women are killed each year by current or former male partners. Many of these cases share common features: unresolved custody disputes, financial conflict, jealousy, and escalation after a breakup. The murder of Shasmine Clack aligns with these patterns. She had recently separated from the suspect, with reports suggesting she publicly indicated the end of the relationship. Statistically, the period immediately following a breakup is one of the most dangerous times for victims of domestic abuse. Data shows that a significant percentage of homicides occur within weeks or months of separation. Protective measures exist in Texas, including restraining orders, emergency protective orders, and victim assistance programs. However, gaps in enforcement and accessibility remain. In many cases, victims do not pursue legal protection due to fear, lack of resources, or distrust in the system's ability to protect them. It is unclear whether Shasmine had sought protective measures before her death. No public record has surfaced of restraining orders or prior police reports against the suspect. This absence raises questions about whether early intervention could have changed the outcome, or whether she was navigating conflict without formal support systems in place. Another systemic gap lies in firearm access. Texas laws allow gun ownership under broad circumstances, and enforcement around disarming individuals with violent tendencies is inconsistent. The suspect's access to a firearm underscores the ongoing debate over how effectively laws prevent dangerous individuals from carrying out violence against intimate partners. The case quickly spread across local and regional media. Initial reports focused on the shooting details and the suspect arrest. As the story developed, social media amplified unverified claims, including alleged posts by Shasmine before her death celebrating independence from the relationship. These narratives shaped public perception, with some focusing on her personal choices, while others emphasized systemic failures. Social media's influence in true crime cases often produces a mixture of confirmed facts, speculation, and misinformation. In this instance, the spread of unverified claims has complicated public understanding of events. Nevertheless, the media attention has ensured the case remains visible. This visibility has pressured local authorities to provide updates and kept domestic violence at the forefront of community discussion. The established facts are clear. Shasmine Clack, 31, was shot on February 1st, 2025, in Coppers Cove, Texas. She was transported to the hospital but pronounced dead. The suspect, Alonzo Hunter, 27, was arrested and charged with her murder. He is the father of her youngest child. Speculation surrounds the motive. While breakup and relationship disputes have been reported as possible triggers, investigators have not released official conclusions. The precise circumstances of the argument or events leading directly to the shooting remain undisclosed. The case now moves through the legal process. Hunter remains in custody on a $500,000 bond. Court proceedings, including pretrial hearings, will determine what evidence is admissible. The prosecution is expected to present forensic evidence, witness testimony, and digital communications. The defense's strategy is unknown but may involve arguments around intent, provocation, or mental state. Until trial, many details remain sealed. The community awaits official findings to replace speculation with sworn testimony and verified evidence. 5 children are now without their mother. Their upbringing depends on relatives and the legal system's custody decisions. A family bears a financial strain of funeral costs and the challenge of supporting multiple children. A community is left grappling with fears about domestic violence and the effectiveness of existing protections. This case illustrates the unseen dangers present in intimate relationships, particularly during times of separation or conflict. It emphasizes the need for vigilance from family, friends, and communities. It also highlights systemic weaknesses, gaps in protective services, challenges in firearm regulation, and limited awareness around intervention strategies. The broader lesson is one of recognition and response. Recognizing early signs of escalating conflict, responding with protective measures, and holding systems accountable for enforcement are all critical steps. Until these measures are consistently applied, cases like that of Shasmine Clack will continue to surface, leaving unanswered questions and irreversible consequences. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.